it's typically geared towards defaming Black women instead of actually talking about what it is they're specifically looking for without putting Black women in a negative light. And I think that's where Shannon and I think Mistaken were kind of guiding towards the conversation about the specific people who say Black women when they're asked about preferences about other races.
And there was a guy. He said he made like I think 220K or something around that metric. He was about 6'2". The women thought he was attractive, but once he started listing what he wanted, they immediately just start bashing the man, saying he don't want Black women. He hate Black women because the things he listed was fit, feminine, friendly, and natural hair. That's all he said, and they attacked that man. I'm talking about. I wish you pulled the video up. I'm in the comments too because I'm like, no, Black women fit this criteria. I don't know where you think Black women can't wear their natural hair. Some Black women actually do this. But for y'all as the women to look at that and get that mad at that man, I thought that was wild.
So I want to let me say this, right? Because I think there's two separate conversations that happen. Yes, that is true, and there are some women that are especially loud because they feel like every man should be attracted to them. But when Black women are having this conversation, that isn't really the conversation that they're having about the guy who's talking about his preferences. What Black women are talking about when it's like, I think Average Man talked about like the compare and contrast. It's, these are my preferences because Black women X, Y, and Z. Like it's direct shots while making the label, right? Like it's, you know, why do you prefer Hispanic women? Well, because Black women are loud and Black women are unsubmissive and Black women, it's never about hate. Hispanic women are more submissive. Hispanic women take better care of themselves. Hispanic women are family oriented. Like that's never the conversation, or let me not say never. That's not typically the conversation. It's typically geared towards defaming Black women instead of actually talking about what it is they're specifically looking for without putting Black women in a negative light. And I think that's where Shannon and I think Mistaken were kind of guiding towards the conversation about the specific people who say Black women when they're asked about preferences about other races.
So I don't know the rate at which it happens on either end, but what I would like to ask everybody here is that do you think it can happen without the actual dig to Black women, without Black women getting upset? Do you think Black men can actually talk about their preferences in other women without Black women making it about themselves? I have not seen it yet.
Well,
Well, I
Go
think that when people, I don't think when people get on and I've heard them say Western women, and I get that because that's every West, because I think it's an American culture. It's not just Black, it's American culture. And so when you say Western women, okay, it's not like only Black women are doing this. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the Western culture, and I get that. That's kind of what Average Man was saying when he opened up of why he's a passport bro. And you can't argue with that because we do have a culture that's probably not the same anywhere else, and you can own up to that. It's just that when you take a select group as if they're the only people who are doing that in the culture and make it a Black woman thing, when in actuality it's American thing. We're not the only ones who are doing whatever it is that we're doing. We got it from somewhere. It's an American thing, and I think that's more accepted than just saying it's a Black woman thing.
Yeah, so
Indeed.
like they had these stats about, well, not even the tropes about Black men are the worst fathers and we abandon our kids and all of this stuff, right? That played in my head my entire life to the point that I'm a over parent, right? When women hear these things, do they like piss y'all off to the point where you say, you know what, I'm gonna course correct so hard, I'm gonna become the standard? Or is it like that's not me, I don't care, or I don't want you anyway? Like how do y'all, you know what I'm saying, in general handle that out of curiosity? Like it doesn't have to be you specifically or somebody that you know when they hear these things.
Well, I know by default, what we're hearing is that some men course correct so hard they throw fire back at Black women. But that's all I'll say about that. But oh, who me? But I think what you're alluding to is very important because not only has that narrative been pushed, and Black women have been so. I'm not saying that it's something that black men should retaliate on. But you got to remember that the black male voice was missing from media, or has been for 30 years. It's just now coming back. Most of the men that are talking are trying to correct that narrative. That's what my whole show was about. Literally just saying my side. Like, yo, this is how I feel. This is how I parent. This is what my priorities are. Now, I do think what, like Marcus said, some men will course correct so hard that they're still upset that they've heard that their whole life. And I'm going to tell you right now, not only am I personally upset at it, I believed it for so long because we love black women so much that we figured everything that you were talking about, you experienced. When I grew up finally to realize that you don't even have to experience it to use it as a spear to talk down about black men. You don't even know anybody that might have experienced it, but you heard something about it, or your homegirl experienced it. So you just want to exacerbate it out to the public as a narrative about black men. That affects me in so many ways. People still clear the sidewalk when I walk at night because of black women. That's going to make some black men angry. And unfortunately, you'll see that negatively characterized in these spaces. What I mean is that they all think I'm a robber. Every black man on this panel, when he walks in between cars and they're too close together, you hear those doors shut, right? I'm telling you right now, it's a lot of negative stereotypes pushed out there about us, which make us so sensitive.
I agree, but can I also
blame that on black women?
Well, that's what I was about to say. I agree. Stereotypes have been pushed, media wise or whatever. But just like when we get on black women about they're not making it any better when they're twerking and being all loud, doing all of that in public. You don't think men have some responsibility for pushing those same stereotypes when they are, walking around with their pants down or appearing to be aggressive, robbing, like that kind of stuff? I think we all contribute to our own demise.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. At some point, you have to stop feeding into it. I just like I was saying, the voice, there's been an overrepresentation of those type of black men, and too many of us that did not live that life and strive to live a life opposite to that are affected by it. I hold black women personally accountable for their role in it, from what I said previously, to where they will talk down about black men about things they didn't even personally experience. Right? I don't believe that's something men do at all. Like, men are usually talking about their own experience. So it's not a tip.
So I think that so there were two things that you said, and please correct me if I'm wrong. We were talking about fatherhood, correct? You came in talking about fatherhood. I'm talking to Mike.
Oh, me?
Was it the fatherhood that you brought up?
No, that was Marcus talking about fatherhood a little bit.
Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think probably the opposite of what you're saying, Trigger Mike. Like, y'all just got finished talking about the stats and how many single moms there are. So if it's that amount of single moms, I would think that they are probably talking about that when they're saying men ain't ish, because maybe it's because they're in the situation that the men that they happen to have children with are not there. So they are maybe speaking to that experience if they're a single mom.